Hey, everybody. Welcome to a Misfit Minute. I thought about something today, and so I thought I'd get it out there. My husband is in a training, and during their presentation, they played that kind of famous Big Bang Theory clip of Sheldon. I'll show it. I'll pause right here and show it.
You're here a lot now.
Oh, am I talking too much? I'm sorry. Zip.
Thank you. Chocolate?
Yes, please. You know what? Hold on. Let me take this in the hall. You'll never guess who they got to replace you at work.
Okay. I know what you're doing.
Really?
Yes. You're using chocolates as positive reinforcement for what you consider correct behavior.
Very good. Chocolate?
No, I
So, a lot of you may have already seen that clip. We've used it in a lot of trainings and stuff like that. And there's always been a discussion of positive, negative behavior reinforcement or punishment. And those are terms that can be very tricky to wrap your head around. And so I thought I would throw together a graphic and see if that helps because I'm still not very good at it, especially when you're talking about some of the negative punishment or negative reinforcement. And so there's a kind of tricky terms, not that we really need to know what they are. But so here's the graphic that I came up with. I created a flow chart. The first thing we really need to figure out is to define the behavior because that will then help us decide if we're talking about positive or negative reinforcement or punishment. So once you figure out what target behavior you want to increase or decrease, that helps you follow this flow chart. So once you define a behavior, then you're going to ask, does the behavior increase with our intervention or does it decrease with our intervention? If it increases with our intervention, then you ask, was something added to our system? Was something given to the student or something put into the system? Or was something removed from the system? Did we remove an aversive, something they didn't like? Did we remove something from the system? And those two clues will give us an indication of whether it's a positive reinforcement or a negative reinforcement. For example, if something was added to the system, for example, a student finishes the work and so they get a sticker, they get an M&M, something like that. Something's added to the system and then the behavior is finishing the worksheet or whatever, and that increases, then we have positive reinforcement. That's the easiest thing to figure out. The negative reinforcement, if a behavior increases and something unpleasant or aversive was removed from the system, that would be a negative reinforcement. So with negative reinforcement, here are a couple of examples. If a teacher is reminding students constantly to raise their hand instead of talking, and the student does that, and then the teacher stops the nagging, that would be a negative reinforcement. Or for an example, student finishes their math work and then they're not given the extra homework. That extra homework is removed. So those would be examples of negative reinforcement. A real life example we often hear, but it's very relatable, is when you get into the car and you hear the bing, bing for the seatbelt, and then you buckle your seatbelt. That's the behavior that's increasing, and it stops that nagging sound. So that's a way to think of negative reinforcement. Okay, so then we have that positive, negative reinforcement. So go back to the flow chart, again, defining your behavior. And if you're looking for a behavior to decrease, you're going to ask the same questions. The behavior is decreasing with what we're doing. Are we adding something to the system, which would be a positive punishment? Or are we taking something away from the system, which would be a negative punishment? So a positive punishment example might be the student is yelling out, and there might be a corrective action or an extra homework or something like that. So something's added to the system when the student exhibits the behavior. And we want that behavior to decrease. That makes the decrease in the behavior creates the punishment piece of it. The adding to the system means the positive. If that makes sense. Then negative punishment, again, our behavior is decreasing, whatever we defined, and something is removed that they wanted, something pleasant that they wanted from the system. That's usually how it's considered. So, for example, a student hits somebody and recess is taken away or something. So the behavior we're expecting is going to decrease because something that they wanted, they no longer get to have. So I hope this little flow chart helped you figure out if you need to figure it out. Again, these are just terms. It doesn't really matter. Whatever works to increase the behavior you want to increase or decrease the behavior you want to decrease. That's really what matters and not really necessarily using the correct terms. But if you're in the BCBA field and you want to learn that, having a little chart like this, there's a second chart I'll put in there that has the examples. And I'll put these charts into the show notes and in our Facebook group if you want to grab them. Otherwise, let's go back to that clip, which was the question that I had, because what happens is Penny exhibiting a behavior of talking that is irritating Sheldon. And so when she stops the behavior, he initiates something to the system of giving the chocolate, right? And then Leonard says, you're using positive reinforcement to correct a behavior or whatever it is that he says. Now, the question comes, is it positive reinforcement because the behavior of talking is decreasing, or is it positive punishment because the behavior is decreasing? The only trick is the thing that is being added to the system is not an aversive or something unpleasant. It's something she wants. So that implies reinforcement. And so this is just a discussion that I've had with a lot of people. And I'm asking for your guys' ideas. Would you consider that positive reinforcement, or would you consider that positive punishment with the decreasing of the behavior? You could say we're increasing the behavior of polite interaction or her excusing herself. So that could be considered. Maybe the target behavior we're going to define is removing herself to have the conversation, in which case that would be a positive reinforcement. Anyway, it's a very common clip that we hear in our field a lot. And I was curious what people think and how they would analyze that piece of whether positive or negative punishment or reinforcement. So that is the Misfit Minute today. Please give us your thoughts. Head to the Facebook group or wherever you catch us, and let's start a discussion about it. See you soon.